Welcome to the Astrology Podcast, Halloween Edition. Deep inside the dark web's universe, we found the 12-volt industry's deep throat of the network. Following the release of the JFK files, we thought it appropriate to make public this classified interview to finally put to rest any and all conspiracy theories regarding the insider operations of the 12-volt industry as a whole. The interview you are about to hear is true. Only the names have been changed to protect the guilty.
Tom, how are you?
Very well. Ben, how are you today?
Not too bad. Thank you for joining us. I assume it's against your company's or your associates' wishes to discuss the network with us today. Let's start with, what is the network?
Yeah, I would call us the Car Audio Illuminati. We are a small, well-funded group of people that really control the entire car audio industry. So all the competition organizations report to us, all the brands report to us, even all the retailers and the distributors in the world take their heed from what we say and how we operate. So we really control the entire audio world that you know of, sir.
What is the purpose of the network?
To make money, of course, and to ruin people who cross the network's lives. It's the same as any organization, except we have a cooler secret handshake. Ours involves headphones.
So you have a network, and then you have people outside of the network trying to do what the network is not represent. Is that correct?
Correct. We have insiders, network insiders, who actually know what's going on and who actually are aware of what our plans are and help us formulate those plans. And they have network outsiders who we don't know anything about or we don't care about. And then we have those we've actually gotten vendettas against, who we want to make sure we wreck their lives, make them miserable, and make them live in a piss-stained apartment somewhere.
Now, you want to do that to them because they... what?
It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter why. It could be everything from the fact that they might have snubbed us over who got the last Vienna sausage at the last World Finals. It doesn't really make any difference the why. It's a matter of that they deserve to go down, and so we're going to make sure that happens.
How do you feel about manufacturers? Are manufacturers part of your network, or are manufacturers outside of the network? Are there a little of both?
We control manufacturers. I mean, think about it. There's a reason why all this product looks alike. I mean, if you look at the Moscone amps, you look at the power acoustic amps, there's a reason they look alike. It's because we designed them both and we told them to bring them both to market. So we really control the market top to bottom. All the brands listen to us and we control all those brands.
So how do you control all these people at the same time? What is it you do?
Money. I mean, money drives everything. Car audio has really boiled down to, at this point, nothing but money. So all we are is little money grubbers. We want as much money as we can get our hands on. We don't care with quality of product. We don't care about in phase, out of phase, absolute phase, in absolute phase. We don't care. Space phase doesn't even bother us a whole lot.
What is space phase?
I'm not really sure what space phase is. I think it's when you send a speaker to Uranus and back, and it makes a loud plopping noise.
There's a lot of DIY people who do things themselves, and they try and come up with ways to avoid being a part of the network. What do you have to say to those people?
You can run silver flutes or anything else you want to. We control the ODM networks. So the offshore contract manufacturers, those are really the people we represent. So I don't care what speaker you buy. You can buy a pair of Scans or a pair of Genesis speakers. They're both made by our network. We don't care how you buy them. Buy them from Parts Express. Don't buy from Parts Express. Now, we'd like it if you bought like the Parts Express Morel drivers. Buy as many of those as you can. You're going to put them in your car. They're going to rot out. And then you're going to go buy the car version, 30 days later.
So you're going to buy the product twice, which equals more money, which is good for the network.
I love it when I see people who want to put cement, the roofing materials on the roof of their cars. I literally jump for joy because we have this overpriced, durable product that they could have bought the first time. But no, they go out and buy this sticky tar paper first. Well, they don't waste their money. I control both manufacturing teams. What do I care who it comes from?
When you say you don't care if they're buying Power Acoustic or Moscani or the Morel drivers, it doesn't really matter because all of these products, when it boils down to it, are really the same thing, just maybe labeled a different.
No, they all come from the network. Not even labeled different. They all come from network companies. I control the network. The network controls all those brands and all these things we're doing. So it doesn't make a difference. It's kind of like if you buy a Chrysler or you buy a Dodge, does FCA really care?
No, I guess
they don't
really
care.
Don't.
You bought an FCA product.
Right. Interesting.
Right. So I don't care whether you buy a silver flute or you buy a pair of hybrid speakers, you buy a pair of ARC speakers, or you buy some kickers. I mean, if your standards are that low and you sunk that low, knock yourself out. But if you buy a pair of kickers, I'm still getting a kickback from it.
What about French brand companies? Like, do you have network members seated in French lands?
We have frogs of all types. The French, they play along too. Everyone plays along. The French, the Italians, the Germans, but their stuff kind of sucks, so we ignore them. They have 10 ears. The Brazilians, the Koreans, they're all in on here for us, and that's why they're all part of the network, and we're an all-powerful group then.
Interesting. Where do you all collaborate? There has to be a meeting of the minds somewhere. Do you do that in person? Do you do it online? Do you telepathically communicate, or what?
Sound waves, of course.
In-phase sound waves.
Unless we're talking about outgoing money, which is out-of-phase sound waves. We meet several times a year. For example, at World Finals, there's a closed-off room. We actually meet there. Only with United. There's a closed-off room where a sub-delegation meets. Sometimes we'll rent out an amusement park. We rented out Disney World one time. It was pretty goofy, but we had a good time. So we rented out Disney World, and we all took our spouses and our employees there, and we really made sure we had a team-building effort across the network.
That's awesome. If I wanted to become a member of the network, am I included in being eligible, or am I excluded because I am not necessarily a manufacturer?
We actually look at your online presence first and foremost. If you ever attack a network member, we're going to aggressively attack you back. Matter of fact, we're going to do a denial of service on your computer. We're going to know exactly where you're at, and we're going to make sure we hunt you down. Really, the first thing you do to be a member is really be an upstanding, clean person with an online presence that really doesn't speak ill of others and doesn't trash products. For example, we have a love of Class D. Class D for us is heaven sent because it drives our manufacturing costs so low. It's cheap. We can sell it so much more expensively.
Right.
So if you go online, you trash talk Class D amps, you are never going to be a part of the network because we are going to blackball you forever.
I think I'm starting to see how this works. What about wideband drivers and things that limit the amount of money that people have to spend to build a system?
Look, if we could make speakers out of unobtainium, we would. Our goal is to have the most expensive products on the market that you can buy. Why buy a $15 driver from China when I can say the exact same driver with another sticker on it for 100 times the cost? Horns are horrible. Horns, I'm pretty sure the devil himself invented horns. Wideband drivers, or what they call wideband drivers, tweakers use those things. Roll off at 15K and never come back. I don't think that those technologies aren't consumer friendly. And not only that consumer friendly, they're not network friendly, which means I can't get money from them if you buy them. So I want to make my money.
What about installers? Are you making money on installers who are a part of your network?
Absolutely. Installers all work on commission. We're kind of like the modern day mafia of installers. We take a small portion off their paycheck every week to make sure that they maintain their membership in the network, and we protect them. Have you ever seen an out-of-work installer?
Yes. Matter of fact,
Not for very long, though.
this is true if they're a part of your network.
If they're part of my network, they don't last long as far as unemployment goes because we make sure they move between networks. Now, the same token, if you blackball the network, you aren't getting a job at the local Best Buy.
So salespeople, installers, manufacturer levels, they're all part of this giant network.
You've heard of De Beers, the diamond chain, the diamond cartel. We're the same. We're just the car audio cartel.
I think I get it.
So Ben, why would a DIYer want to be a network member? What benefit would there be to a DIY member to have exposure to the network? I don't understand why you guys would even care about us.
Well, first of all, I'm not really one of you guys because everybody knows if I try and install something, it turns to grease. I think DIYers are curious about the network because they've seen what it can do. They've seen network shops and network employees strive. And then they've seen people who have gone against the network and they're still stuck building cars from the 80s.
There was nothing wrong with cars in the 80s. Okay, look, cars in the 80s were great. That was the 80s. But let's face it. I mean, we've got a lot better product. The network, in the 80s, the network was really small. Over the past 30 years, we've really expanded the network to encompass all these different areas and all these different brands into one strong unified cartel. But let's face it. We prefer mono-sounding cars. I mean, stereo cars are for people who actually are outside the network, and we don't care for stereo. We only care about mono.
You mentioned the cartel, and I associate the cartel with violence and schemes, and I'm curious how the network goes about squashing some of the claims of people outside of the network.
It's easy. We just lock them out.
By?
So we don't have to threaten them with violence or threaten them to... Think about it. You got to have a job somewhere. I mean, all of us got to eat. Well, I don't. I take everything in through a feeding tube. But we all have to eat at some point. If you're in the car audio industry, there's only so many places you can jump. So we just make it so you can't jump anywhere. I mean, if you get blackballed by the network, you're not getting a job at any reputable shop or any reputable manufacturer. We're going to make sure that does not happen.
It seems like such a big world for you to prevent people from getting jobs. But somehow you managed to pull it off. I've talked to quite a few people who struggle and they're trying to survive and they just can't.
It's one of those things where if you're a member if you're an insider to the network and you're on the inside, we protect our own. When you go to the outside, we really don't care about you and we make sure that we take care of our own first, and then whatever scraps are left over, then those on the outside can have a piece of those scraps.
It's so interesting. I never knew that the car audio world was so intricate and so tightly wound, and that so many people are members of this network, preventing people from getting jobs and doing what they want to do. It's just, I never knew it was so involved.
We have gatherings. There's several gatherings throughout the year. There's a thing called Knowledge of Us out in Dallas that, we only allow the inside people to come to. There's another one in Indianapolis we only let the inside people come to. Mesa, who's another network brand of retailers, they have a special meeting with just their members. Very, very secretive in Denver. And it's very locked down and you can't get into it unless you're a Mesa member. And we make sure we control the Mesa membership very closely. So it's one of those things where we control the membership. CEA, we have the CEA in our pockets. So the Consumer Electronics Association, they report back to us. That's where we can do things like, disbar you basically. We can remove your MECP and you'll never get it back again. You can't get a job without an MECP.
Is that where people are ranked on their abilities?
Yeah, it's a mobile electronics certified professional. There's study guides you can go out and get. a 10-year-old could go get certified to become an MECP, but we make sure that unless you're a member of the network, even if you take that test, we're going to fail you just because we don't want you as part of our scheme. So we'll make sure we fail you, even though you have the ability and the rights to do it. And if you do decide you're going to use those credentials, we're gonna send you a cease and desist letters, no matter how long you've been in this industry.
So people don't have the right to put master, whatever they are, on their resume or on their shop's display board, unless they've been confirmed that they're allowed to be that by the network.
So the network, that's one of the avenues we use to control.
Seems like you guys go out of your way. Yeah.
We do go out of our way, Ben. We want to make sure, the car audio world is both an ebb and a flow. So we see new brands coming in, we see older brands dying. We control which brands die. SoundStream, for example. We went out of our way to make sure SoundStream died a slow, horrible death. Why do you think that Epsilon, the brand behind SoundStream, got turned in for selling amplifiers to Iran? It wasn't because the government was good at it.
Is that what happened?
Yep, we helped arrange that shipment, and we made sure that we showed the State Department that they were violating the boycott of Iran, and we made sure they got fined millions of dollars because they weren't playing by our rules.
Wow. So the network is something you definitely don't want to piss off. Do you have any stories of people who were in the network and then were booted out of the network and what their life has been like since?
Yeah, I don't want to name names because I don't want people to identify who I am into the network. But definitely, especially if you've been outside, if you were inside the network and you left for whatever reason, and you came back and you didn't make friends the right way and didn't confirm yourself to the network properly, we're going to make sure that you don't get a job in this industry ever again.
So as a non-member of the network, is there anything I can do as a consumer not to piss off the network?
I think the biggest thing you can do is use established brands. Make sure you only use established brands. Look for the CEA, look for the UL tag on it. UL is another one of our network companies, Underwriters Laboratories. They make sure they certify things being safe. So make sure, you're looking for a CEA, a UL, a ROHS certificate on things. Because if you don't have those things there, the network hasn't controlled it. So make sure you take care of and use only network-approved electronics in your system. And the second thing is, make sure you keep ahead of the latest trends. Up mixers, that's our next biggest thing. Up mixers are really going to solve the DSP problems for the next 100 years. If your DSP doesn't have an up mixer in it today, the network's going to force every DSP manufacturer in the next 2 years to put an up mixer in there. And why we're going to do that is because we're going to get royalties back out of the upmixing companies. So we're doing it for money. You should do it for money too. Make sure you don't do things like run AB amps. AB amps are bad, Ben. AB amps are really bad. Only use Class D amps.
That makes complete sense. All right. Well, do you have any closing comments, parting words, Mr. Tom?
Yeah, I think the parting words are, don't mess with the network. We'll come find you. We know where you are.
All right. Thanks again, Tom. I wanted to thank you for taking time out of your busy network life to talk to us and express what it is the network is all about. I'm sure you're going to get lots of flack from the network because the network doesn't like to be talked about or exposed. We'll do our best to protect your identity, and we'll do our best to be members of or supporting buyers of member products. Cliff will have fun editing this, I guarantee
it. Cliff is going to be snickering like there's no tomorrow. We've done 20 minutes of bullshit. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit coming out of my mouth?